reached out to Dave Lapham. Dave is a former offensive lineman for the Bengals, and he has been the color analyst on radio for the Bengals for 35 years now, and he joins us on the program. Dave, what's the local reaction to Joe Burrow's injury?
I think basically initially stunned, and then all the other emotions that you go through, crestfallen, disappointment, can't believe it, everything and all emotions that you can imagine. I think the worst nightmare came true.
What about blame?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. Everybody's suit's dirty there. When an injury like that occurs, the reaction is emotional, and blame is going from ownership to coaches to players to everything and all inclusive for sure.
But you're a former offensive lineman. Assess that offensive line, and should Joe Burrow have been attempting at least 40 passes per game?
Well, the offensive line, honestly, in my opinion, there's maybe 8 offensive lines in football that I think are really a cut above. Everybody else is just offensive line play, in my opinion, is not good in the NFL overall. I mean, I keep reading about teams giving up 6 sacks, 8 sacks. I've been in that department. Is it even average? I'm not sure you could even say that it approaches average at this point in time. But they were getting better, and part of the reason they were getting better was because Joe Burrow was starting to understand that he had to get the ball out of his hand very quickly, and the rhythm and coordination and timing of everything that was going on between Joe and his offensive line was as important as that had to go on between Joe and his receivers. So they were growing together, and that's the way how they had to approach it in their mind to win football games. Joe Burrow was clearly their best player, and felt like they had to throw the football for Joe to win football games with Joe Burrow. And Dan, a lot of their passing game was an extension of the running game. A lot of these throws were like keep being the shotgun, catch a shotgun snap, find the laces, throw it. I mean, it was out.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a long lateral. They ran screens, they ran. Their quick passing game was a big, big part of their offense, particularly when they started to figure out that the offensive line and Joe were best married in that type of a rhythm. So, and it was advancing. And unfortunately, it's going to be put on hold for a while.
Is Zach Taylor coaching for his job, Dave?
Well, that's a good question. It's with the injury that took place. Now it's just pure speculation. They had a lead over a Washington football team they felt like they could have beaten when Joe went out. So, is your mindset, could have beaten Washington and could have beaten some of these other teams that are going to be coming up on the schedule here with Joe Burrow? Is it fair to Zach to say that, he's going to be graded on trying to beat these teams without Joe Burrow? I mean, so many factors come into the equation, I guess. And Mike Brown, by nature, is extremely patient with respect to coaches. I think what Art Modell did to his dad left a lifelong impression on him, and he gives coaches benefit of the doubt whenever it's questionable. He's gonna side on let's give him more time. So I can't answer that question, but my feeling is that with what just took place, I think Mike Brown is not going to pull a quick trigger.
Is this franchise cursed?
Boy, that's the first thing every fan talks about. It's welcome to the curse, Joe. It's amazing. When I saw Joe Burrow go down, I immediately flashed back to the other number 9 going down, Carson Palmer, and I said my first reaction was the exact same statement. Carson's down. Oh, Burrow's down. I mean, it just almost like, I can't believe this. Almost the exact same type of situation. Now, Carson wasn't high load. It was only load, but most of the damage came from the low hit. And it was a clean, play. It was just a bull rush and guard and defensive tackle slam into the knee of Joe Burrow. And the damage was because, you can pop an ACL just by a violent cut, and it just pops and no collateral damage. Well, this was a traumatic injury, and it just slammed and it went the wrong way, and all the things that go along with it. So ACL, MCL, people thinking potentially PCL, cartilage, God forbid, nerve damage. All these things come to your mind because of that traumatic injury, and there is extensive damage there. It's not just ACL, MCL, is my understanding. They won't know exactly how bad it is till they go do the surgery, and then have to let swelling subside before they even do that. So, it's when you look at it, 3 of their first picks of the draft tore ACLs. John Carter's was a popped ACL with a violent cut up in Detroit in the preseason. Carson Palmer's was traumatic. Joe Burrow's was traumatic. Man, wouldn't want to be the first pick of the draft for the Bengals, I guess. That's a curse.
Any chance the Bengals bring in Colin Kaepernick?
I'm not sure about that one. That would be an interesting one. I think that they elevated Allen from the practice squad because he's familiar with the system and all that sort of thing. And Dolagala is on the Patriots practice squad. He's a guy that has been in the Bengals organization very recently, and they have a pretty good handle on what he's about. I wonder how strong the conversations are with respect to Colin Kaepernick. That's one that obviously comes to mind. It came to my mind, but I just wonder. I don't have any kind of a handle on where they are in that regard.
Dave, it's good to talk to you. Keep stirring it up. We love the excitement, and we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you, sir.
Dave Lapham. He's the Bengals radio color analyst.